Good afternoon, Ma'am Rachel, and good afternoon, classmates. So, I am Charilyn Gutierrez, and my partner is Emeline Maambong. So, now, I am the first reporter. And our topic for today is learning to be a better student. So, first I will read the quotes of Carl Rogers. The only person who is educated is the one who has learned how to learn and change. So, let's proceed to what is learning. So, what is learning? So, learning is the acquisition of knowledge, skills, and attitudes through experience, leads to personal growth and development, starts from birth and continues throughout life. Learn from observation and imitation. So, a relatively change in behavior as a result of practice and experience and behaviorists. So, what is behaviorism? So, behaviorism, also known as behavioral psychology, is a theory of learning based on the idea that all behaviors are acquired through conditioning. Conditioning occurs through interactions with the environment. Behaviorists believe that our responses to environmental stimuli shape our actions, a process that leads to change as a result of experience. So ang kaning behaviorist is all about sa pamatasan and sa pagdisiplina, di ba? Pag-respect. And kung appeal sa niyang punishment kay, di ba, sa mga bata patakay, katong mga bata patakay, ginabunalan man ta sa tong mga mama, no? Like, kanang makasala ta, ana, kanang natin nabuhat, nga dili mayo, ana, ginabunalan ta sa tong mama. Kana siya kay, dapat maka-learn ta kung kanang unsa to ang nangabuhat, nga dili maayo. Appeal sa ng kanang pagbadlong sa mga teacher, di ba? Kay ginabadlong po sa itong mga teacher if kanang nate like example, nakabuak ta sa school, ana, di ba? Kay ginakasabaan man jud ta mo na dapat kaning dili na ta magdulag mga anak kay para dili ta makasala. So, di ba? O mo na siya behaviorist kanang sa pamatasan, no? As a student. So what is cognitive psychology? So, cognitive psychology is the scientific study of the mind as an information processor. Cognitive psychologists try to build up cognitive models of the information processing that goes on inside people's minds, including perception, attention, language, memory, thinking, and consciousness. So, ang cognitive psychologist, no, kay cognitive psychologist is, as I said kaganiya about atong learning, di ba? So, mo na siyang example sa cognitive psychologist. Learning is the example of cognition, the way our brain makes connections as we learn concepts in different ways to remember what we have learned. So, mo na siya example sa cognitive psychologist, no? Ang learning, dapat maka-learn tas to mga sala, may mana, di ba? So, muna siya. So, what happens in the brain during learning? So muna din siya ang neuroplasticity is the ability of the brain to neuroplasticity involves addition of the new neurons and reorganizations of information processing areas. Neuroplasticity, also known as neural plasticity or brain plasticity, is the ability of neural networks in the brain to change through growth and reorganization. These changes range from individual neuron pathways making new connections to systematic adjustments like cortical remapping. So ang kaning neuroplasticity is mo ni siya ang kanang the brain's ability to recognize itself by forming new neural connections throughout life. Neuroplasticity allows the neurons, nerve cells in the brain to compensate for injury and disease and to adjust their activities in responses to new situations or to changes in their environment. So, ang neuroplasticity na is kanang mo na siya organize ba siya sa connections bitaw dayon siya allow pod sa neurons and nerve cells. So, ability of the brain to change happens in two ways. So, na two ways, no? Moni siya, which is, number 1, increase in the number of synapses between neurons. Number 2, change in the functions and structure of the neurons. So, ang ang synapses is, is mo na siya ang katubitang kuan small gap mo na siya katong gamay kaayo at the end of at neurons that allows a signals to pass from one neuron to the next. Synapses are found where nerve cells connect with other nerve cells. Mo na siya kuan ang kanang meaning sa synapses na synapse no mo na siya ang katong gamay kaayo. Dayon kanang kuan neurons dito sa kuan neurons are basic buildings blocks of the nervous system that transmit impulses or messages. And neurons, also called neurons or nerve cells, are fundamental units of the brain and nervous system. The cells responsible for receiving sensory input from the external world, for sending motor commands to our muscles, and for transforming and relaying the electrical signals at every steps in between. So kuan, what neurons are made of for? So, unsa daw gimade ni ko neurons mo siya ang cell body, dendrites, axon, and synapse. So, ang cell body is cell body contains the nucleus of the cell and its associated intracellular structures. They functions to obtain information from other cells and carry that information to the cell in the direction of the cell body. So, axon is also called nerve fiber, portions of the nerve cell neuron that carries the nerves impulse away from the cell body. So, mo ni siya yung mga meaning no sa kaning cell body, dendrites, axon, and the sa synapse is a junction that helps transmit impulses or messages to another neurons. So, muna siya. So, dito sa cerebral cortex, wrinkled layer of the brain, process of neuroplasticity usually happens here, responsible for the most sophisticated information processing in the brain. The cerebral cortex is a sheet of neural tissue that is outermost to the cerebrum of the mammalian brain. It has up to 6 layers of nerve cells. It is covered by the meninges and often referred to as gray matter. Between 14 billion and 16 billion neurons are found in the cerebral cortex. So, kanang 14 billion and 16 billion no neurons na nga makita siya sa cerebral cortex. So, the cortex is divided into 4 lobes, no? So, muna ni siya, upat ni sila kabuok ang cortex. So, muna siya number 1, frontal lobe. So, ang frontal lobes are located directly behind the forehead. Di siya na-locate sa forehead. The frontal lobes are the largest lobes in the human brain and they are also the most common region of injury and traumatic brain injury. The frontal lobes are considered our behavior and emotional control, century and home to our personality. So, parietal lobe. So, parietal lobe is one of the major lobes in the brain, broadly located as the upper back area in the skull. It processes sensory information it receives from the outside world, mainly relating to pulsal states and temperature. Damage to the parietal lobe may lead to dysfunctions in the senses. So, temporal lobe. So, temporal lobe sit behind the ears and the second lobe sit behind the ears and the second largest lobe. They are the most commonly associated with processing auditory informations and with the encoding of memory. So, occipital lobe. So, occipital lobe sit at the back of the head and are responsible for visual perceptions, including color, form, and motion. Damage to the occipital lobe can include difficulty with locating objects in the environment, inability to recognize the movement of an object. So muna siya ang kanang upat kabuok nga cortex lobes. So, what is cognition? Cognition is the scientific term referring to the mental processes involved in gaining knowledge and comprehension, including thinking, knowing, remembering, judging, and problem solving. So what is metacognition? Metacognition is knowledge and understanding of our own cognitive processes. So, metacognition, according to John Flavel, thinking about thinking, awareness of one's thinking and the strategies one uses to. So, the root meta means beyond. So, the term refers to beyond thinking processes. So they have the two components of metacognition, which is number 1, metacognitive knowledge. So metacognitive knowledge, knowledge of one's own cognitive abilities, knowledge of cognitive tasks. So number 2, metacognitive regulation. Refers to how an individual monitors and controls his or her cognitive processes. So mo ni siya ang kanang mo ni siya ang two types of components of metacognition. So mura tong ako ma'am, and that's all. Thank you. God bless.
Types of metacognition knowledge. First is declarative knowledge or person knowledge, or understanding one's own capability. Declarative knowledge is not always accurate, as an individual self-assessment can be easily unreliable. It refers to the factual information that we know and can both be spoken or written. This is also the knowledge about ourselves as learners and about what factors can influence our performances. Second is procedural knowledge, task knowledge, including content, what do I need to know, and length, how much space do I have to communicate what I know. Procedural knowledge is related to how difficult an individual perceives the task to be, as well as to their self-confidence. This refers to information on how to do something or how to perform the procedural steps that make up a task. Strategy knowledge or conditional knowledge, one's ability to use strategies to learn information as well as for adapting these strategies to new situations. This is related to the age or developmental stage of the new individual. So, strategy knowledge refers to the knowledge about when to use a procedure, skills, or strategy, or when not to. Thinking, a skill that can be learned, practiced, developed, and improved. Not same as intelligent, being brilliant of school works, gathering lots of information, and being good in speaking out in class. Self-regulated learning. According to Zimmerman, the process in which students systematically direct their thoughts, feelings, and actions toward the attainment of their academic goals. And there are three components of SRL. First, planning increases efficiency, control, and motivation. Second, problem solving allows students to learn to think and look for solutions when faced with adversities. And third, self-evaluation increases self-awareness that leads to the better understanding of one's own emotions, strengths, and weaknesses. 7K learning styles. First is visual, learning through imagery and special understanding. When we say learning through imagery, mas makasabot sila if na sila image na makita. Unlike sa uban nga reading and listening, mas makasabot sila ana. Then second is oral or auditory, learning through listening, sounds, and music. One, diri is nagdepend sila sa ilang nadunggan para mas makasabot sila sa information nga ilang nadawat rather than nga ilang gibasa sa libro. Third is verbal or linguistic, learning through speech and writing. Ang student mas easier nila ma-express ang ilang kaulingan by writing and speaking or public speaking. So, ang fourth is physical or kinesthetic, learning through hands-on or tactile interaction. When we say hands-on, kining mas naa sila yung makatunan if they are doing something. They are called doers. And if kinesthetic learners sila, they are interested in kinibitang mga naipambuhat like emergency services, safety representative, or physical education or physical educator. Logical or mathematical, learning through logic, reasoning, and systems. If ang students naani, di nag-excel sila sa numbers, mas ganahan sila og kuan kining math, then they can easily recognize patterns. Dagan man jud rin no nga dali ra kayo makasabot if math ang hisgutan or nag-involve og numbers. Then 6, social or interpersonal, preference for learning in groups or working with other people. Kung you are a social learner, then dire mas makasabot ka if naa ka sa group of people nga makatabang sa imo. Kung dili magud para na uban nga mas kaya nila makasabot if sila lang. Solitary or intrapersonal, preference for learning alone via self-study. So when you say intrapersonal, you can understand if ikaw lang isa, makafocus ka. If ikaw lang isa, mas ma-express ni mo imong kaugalingon if ikaw lang walay tabang sa uban nga tawo. So kung mabuhat na nimo ang makabuhat ka sa usa ka butang, maskin pag walay tabang sa uban. 10 most common learning strategies. Elaborative interrogation, generating an explanation of why an explicitly stated fact or concept is true. So, this strategy involves asking and answering why and how questions, that is thinking about a subject in more depth and detail, which strengthens connection in the brain. Then second, self-explanation, explaining how new information are related to known information or explaining steps taken during problem solving. So, maka-adapt ni nga method when kung so na to pag-explain ang new material nga related sa ato ang nakatunan. Then third, summarization, writing summaries to be learned materials while reading. Kaning summarization, while nagbasa ka, gina-summarize sab nimo ang imong mga natunan sa imong gibasa. Mag-work lang na siya if we are properly trained how to write summaries. Then highlighting or underlining, using keyword and mental imagery to associate verbal materials. So ang highlighting magamit nato ni siya nga strategy para dali ra nato makita ang important nga word dira sa sentence or dira sa paragraph. Then keyword mnemonic, elaborative rehearsal strategy used to help encode information more effectively so that you can easily memorize and recall it. Dire mag-figure out ta og image abot anang unfamiliar word nga atong na-encounter or magama taglaeng meaning nga connected ana nga word para dali nato madumduman. Then imagery for text, attempting to form image of text materials while reading or listening. While nagbasa ta, ang atong nahuna kay nag-imagine kung unsay nahitabo ana ang scenario. Then mo na siya advantage kay na siya sa mga visual learners. Dayon rereading, restudying text materials again after an initial reading. So makatabang kayo ni siya para makarecall ta sa mga lessons nga atuan nang agian. Practice testing, self-testing or taking practice test over to be learned materials. So this strategy is the most effective. When we say practice testing, gina-test nato ang atong kaugalingon through making questions and kita atong answer na. Dili makita nato kung naba jud tayo nasabtan sa ato ang mga lessons nga naagi. And if dili nato siya kining ma-perfect, makabaluta asa dapat natong makatunan or mastadihan pa. The next is distributed practice. It's a learning strategy when practice is broken up into a number of short sessions over a long period of time. So, dili kinahanglan mag-start kag review or mag-prepare para sa exam mga 1 week before pa. Maskin pag 10 to 15 minutes na everyday, nako kayo nagtabang sa ato ang pag-prepare sa exam. Dili kay mag-study ka 1 day before ang exam. Ang atong utok anak kay magrambol namang good maglisod na ta ning tungod sa pagamay nga time nga ato ang gihatag ana. Interleave practice. Implementing a schedule of practice that makes different kinds of problem or a schedule of study that makes different kinds of material within a single study session. Kini magamit nato ni if mag-prepare ta para sa exam. Mag-mix ng different type of questions para mahibal-an sab nato kung asa dapat natong sadihan. Dili kay mag-focus lang ta sa isa ka topic. How to develop metacognitive and self-regulated learning behaviors. First, set your short-term and long-term academic goals. Second, make a self-help plan. Third, monitor your academic performance and progress. Fourth, reflect. Becoming a better student. To become a better student, several things are needed to be done. Aside from just listening from the discussions and following the directions taught by the teachers, a student should be able to have a better understanding of what they are doing. They have the ability to recognize and sort the different information that they are encountering, and to be able to have a certain level of understanding of the concept that they are studying, in which could result for better application and appreciation of such learnings. Tips to become a better student. First, prepare before going to school. Always try to research or read the next lesson, do your assignments, and eat and have proper rest before going to school. So, dire katon time nga wala pa pandemic, before ta moadtog eskwelahan, dapat maligo mo jud sa daan, mukaon kay pa sa klase, dili ta katulgon, dili ta gutmon, dili ta ma-distract. Then, if naay mga assignment, dapat sa balay palandaan, buhaton na nato. Pero, daghan makarelate ani sa una, nga, inig first period palang gali, magtapok na ng kilid, kay nakalimot man sa assignment, magkarakara na dayon. Then, second, use different resources. Aside from books provided for the class, don't forget to use the library and the internet. So, dili lang ta magsalig sa isa ka references nga gihatag na may internet sab, makakuha ta daghang information, tas dili ra kay nato na malocate ang ato ang gipangita. Magkuan lang ta, i-search lang nato, manggawas na dayon ang atong gusto nga makita nga information. Then third, be critical and make learning personal. Know what you are learning, why you are learning, and how they are important to you and your plans in life. Dere dapat kabaluta about sa tong mga nasabtan. Kini atong mga nakatunan magamit ni nato or makatabang ni sa tuwa para ma-achieve nato atong goals sa kinabuhi. Then fourth, As help, the school may focus on the interaction between the teachers and students, but the institution is comprised of more than what or who you are inside the classroom, and the people in the school, from the guidance office, librarian, registrar, etc., and even people outside the school such as your parents and friends or other professionals can help you as a student to break limitations. Is the difficulties that is brought about by the requirements of the curriculum. So wala man jay problema o mga tagtabang, bas ang ato ang pangutan-an sa itong mga problema katabang sab sa tua. And fifth, do other things. The teachers provided co-curricular or extracurricular activities. Join clubs or school groups to widen your experience as a student. Not only can you have a better relationship, which will translate to more help in the future, but an active body and mind that may or may not necessarily related to schoolwork can also help a student to balance their lifestyle and maintain a healthy body and mind. That's the end of our report, Learning to be a Better Student. I am Emeline Almaambong, together with Cherilyn Gutierrez. Thank you for listening and God bless.